Good morning, Towel friends. My name is Grant Smith Ellis, and it is just past 7 a.m. on Thursday, August 7th, 2025. In the arena of adult and medical use products in Massachusetts, there was major breaking news overnight as the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission has released, for the very first time, the largest product advisory in their history. Over 7,600 batches of product were affected, which could be up to 190,000 individual retail sales. Now, this product advisory has to do with a reported massive campaign of manipulated total yeast and mold testing, culminating in the July 4th, 2025 summary suspension of the Assured Testing Lab in Massachusetts by the CCC. Now, as I reported at the time, according to the CCC's findings of fact and summary suspension order, Assured Testing Lab was in essence facilitating their clients submitting samples that were passed for the presence of total yeast and mold without actually being tested as such, or the samples were tested in such a way where it was guaranteed that they would pass. Now, the context behind this, the regulatory sort of context is Massachusetts has a 10,000 CFUG limit on the amount of total yeast and mold. Okay, that's a tough limit, one of the more tough limits. Maryland, for example, just increased their limit to 100,000 CFUG. But the issue isn't so much the limit. You could raise the limit a little bit, and I think that would be okay. The issue is no matter what the limit is, there's an incentive for large industrial producers to work with labs or find labs that will pass their samples regardless, because it's cheaper to get product to market that way. So now we can see, as of July 4th, you can see in my original reporting, there was no product advisory released with the summary suspension order. The CCC found out about how the manipulation was occurring. They did an investigation, they issued a summary suspension order, but they didn't really go into the scope of the products. They said they had noticed 544 samples at the time or found documented that were at issue, but they didn't really go into the scope of the number of impacted products or anything like that. Well, we got that, folks. We got that overnight. And you can see it right here. 7,600 batches. The file is 662 pages long when you render it as a PDF. And some folks, the reason I'm doing this short video is some folks asked if I would be able to provide them with a quick overview of how to access the document. So you're going to open the PDF link in this breaking news story here. It's going to be the first link at the very top. That's going to be the PDF link, okay? Go ahead and open that PDF link. This is on patreon.com/Grant Smith Ellis. There's the story. It's the very top one. It's free for everyone to read. All my articles always are. As a note, you can support this channel. There's various ways. Take a look in the description. You can also sign up on Patreon, but all of my content is free to read. This is a public information service. It's centered on educating, informing, and entertaining the public at large, such as to engender the cogency of public discourse and ward off the usurpation of our representative forms of government worldwide. If that's a mission you can support, please feel free to support. Towel channel, Grant Smith Ellis. This is independent reporting. There's no sponsors. There's no ads other than what YouTube provides. It is just independent reporting powered by viewers and informed members of the public like you. All right, so as you can see, what you're going to do is you're going to click the PDF link, you're going to open it up, and you're going to find this 662-page file, okay? Now, if we zoom in, we're pretty zoomed in here, but we can zoom in a little bit more, all right? And what we're going to see is there's 5 columns. You see the columns up there on the overview? There's 5 of them, all right, from the left. Package label, packaged date, tested on, product category, product name, harvest name. You're really looking for a few things as a consumer. The first thing you're looking for is obviously you probably don't have product. This recall covers a massive amount of time, April 1st, 2024 through April 15th, 2025. So what you're really looking for is, did you store old product? That's unlikely, but you're looking for more recent dates, okay, like 5/1/2025, etc. That's when it was packaged. You're looking for things that might have made the shelf recently, and you're looking for when they were tested on, okay? Then you're going over here, and mind you, there's 7,600 batches, okay? Batches are maybe 25 to 50 total products per batch, so you only send in a small batch of the total amount of product you're selling per 10 to 20 pounds of product, I think. You only send in a small amount for testing. So each batch you see here, multiply 7,600 by 50 or so. That's the number of retail products, the total number of retail products that were affected, okay? But you're going to go to the fifth category, and that's going to tell you what we're looking at, okay? It's not always going to be immediately discernible because it's going to be product names or brand names, but that's how you figure out which cultivators, what companies, who was impacted. Now, you might have to, for example, like find out who makes the Shorty's variety pack. You know, some of them you're going to see right on the name of the product, like Quincy Cannabis. Some of them you're going to see it's going to be a little obfuscated, but this is the category you want. Now it goes, and I am not kidding when I say this is 662 pages of information. This is 662 pages of information. It's not redundant. There's nothing copied. It's all different entries and different products. Now some of them are redundant in the sense that it was the same product and different batches, but it doesn't matter. If you want to find out what the companies are, you have to go through that fifth category, and it's going to take all of us. I'm going to try to work on a script to parse this data to present it in what's called like a graphical user interface, or like a way that you can interact with it that is not a PDF. I'm going to try to make it, because the CCC did a terrible job. I'm sorry, I know they worked really hard. They worked really hard to get this list together, but the way they amalgamated and presented the data on the website is a little inaccessible, and it's not anybody's fault. It's the limits of the technology on the website. What you really want to do is you want to present like an interactive sort of mapping tool that amalgamates and scrapes the underlying data, which is what I'm working on, and then it's going to take that and then render it in a web environment that you can click through, in the sense that like you see like the parent company, you see the brands, and then you click the brands and it brings you like a subtree into the different results. That's the only, you have to visualize it. Now, I do not expect the government to create that kind of visualization. You can automate that kind of visualization in like an hour though, okay? And so I'm already working on that, and I'm going to develop a visualization for you. It's not going to be a video. It's going to have to exist as a perma URL on a website, so I'll host it on my website, and it will allow you to go into this. Now, if anyone else does this, you're going to know they got it from me. I don't care. I want people to do this. It's not about me. It's about getting this into a visualized form. But wait, so just to give you a little insight, what I'm going to do is, so you're really looking for everything I just told you, right? The package date, because that's when it went on the shelf, the tested date, and then what type of product, and then what's it called? Is it by what company? Is it by Perpetual? Who made it? And, you know, Simply Herb, like look, and then is that a brand name, or is that a company name? If it's a brand name, you need to figure out what company it's attached to. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach a script. I'm going to write a script and teach a computer to parse all 662 pages of this. It's literally distinct entries across 662 pages. I'm just going to scroll this while I'm talking to make the point. So I'm going to teach a computer to scrape what's called scrape all this, and I'm going to have it interpolate the data into a visualization. That will, now I'm also going to use the fact that computers are very intelligent and can do research, and I'm going to have it, and I'm going to have to double check this, I'm going to have it associate brand names with companies into a tree-like structure, so that you see this overarching map of all the licensed entities involved. You click the licensed entity, it shows you their brands, it shows you the product, and then when you click on that product, it has a sort of visualized, very clean presentation of this is the products impacted by this specific brand, which belongs to this company. Here they are from this data. Okay, it's going to take me, once the script runs, it's going to take me like a minute, but I have to actually teach a computer to do what I just told you. Now, if you think about it, that's really what a good visualization is. I can teach you how to do this, which I'm doing now, but it's fundamentally inefficient to have thousands of us, tens of thousands of us, going through a 662-page document over and over individually, trying to find products that might have been impacted by this that could have levels of total yeast and mold, that whatever your argument about whether the level's too low are prima facie, according to the existing rules, in violation of the standards. That is a de facto threat to public health and safety. If you want to change the rules, go ahead and do it by regulatory means. If you don't, then when you violate those rules, there's a presumption that the product you put out there is a threat to public health and safety. Whether it actually is or not, I'm not a scientist, But I'm telling you, that's why this is so important. So instead of, we have to make sure that medical patients who might be more vulnerable, God knows I am a vulnerable medical patient. What if my medicine right now, I'm unaware, is contaminated with total yeast and mold levels that are high, and I'm uniquely susceptible because of a compromised immune system due to my colitis? So what if I get very sick, or someone like me gets very sick? What if most people wouldn't get sick, but what if people like that would get sick? Even one person being exposed to this is too much. Now, you might say, okay, but what if we raise the limit, that could happen as well. Okay, but then at least the patient knows, okay, there's a risk. I am a sensitive patient. I'm consuming something. It's like being around pollen. I'm consuming something that I know might have an adverse impact on me. Then it's informed consent. When you just tell them it's okay and it might not be, we have an issue. And this isn't a small number of products. I am 1/6 through this document. We have been going for 10 minutes. And you can see this covers some companies. We're going to be able to run a comparative analysis here, horizontally and vertically, and we're going to be able to see, like, numerically how many companies were on here a lot, how many companies were on here a few times, how many companies, even though it looks like they're different brands, were actually on here a lot under different brands. And then we're going to be able to present it and say, of the 7,600 samples, this many were from this company, this many were for this company. Now, that's objective facts. It doesn't mean that they were necessarily contaminated. It means they're subject to a product advisory because the testing on these products were found to have been, on the whole, unreliable, and that's being generous. And so look how many pages of perpetual there are, and that's not necessarily a commentary on the nature of their products. Maybe they just happen to also have products that would have passed elsewhere. We don't know that. That's not our enforcement prerogative. We are just members of the public petitioning the government to make sure that the public is appropriately aware of the nature, the scope, and really the impact of this advisory. Now, what if the CCC does start getting some products returned from these recalls that are still sealed? It's very important, because that if they get open, you have environmental contamination that could occur. But if you have a sealed product subject to this advisory that you bring back to the agency, or you get tested on your own through ProVerde, through their free testing program, one of the labs in Massachusetts, whatever, and you confirm that those levels are high, like Danny Carson has been doing on some of his off-the-shelf testing, okay, then we have a real problem. Okay, that is a prima facie indication that, and again, this needs to be subject to verification. But if we start seeing some of these products, mostly the newer ones that are still potentially on the shelf, like the ones tested in March of 2025, etc., April 2025, if we start seeing those products come back with hot, like and I'm not talking 15,000 CFUGs. I'm talking, if we start seeing 490,000 in sealed products, okay, we have a serious problem. CFUGs, we've seen some of that before too. We've seen a pre-roll packaged, sold to a consumer, not opened, brought to a testing lab, tested, it passed under 10,000 CFUG and then popped at 490,000. That's one example. I've seen 130,000 on a retest. CFUGs. Those are, forget about the low-level contamination that could potentially exist. We can debate about whether the limit should go up or not. But what if, and I know this is a fact, what if some products that have been sold to consumers under the auspices of having passed total yeast and mold testing are failing at 490,000 CFUGs? Even 130,000 CFUGs would fail in Maryland. Then you see the scope of the problem. So we must look at the amount of perpetual entries. Oh, goodness. Hundreds of pages. All right, so what we have to do, and I think this is very important as a community, all of us who consume these products or who pay attention to this, it's a niche issue, but it's kind of a microcosm of the way public health can be impacted by bureaucratic stagnation. And I've been reporting that the CCC's internal data team had been trying to get this data for years and couldn't get it, okay, the testing fraud data or manipulation data. And I think it's because some people in the CCC, I don't know if it was because of their connection to market actors or whatnot, I think it's possible that some people in the hierarchy were trying to keep the CCC's own internal data team from finding out about this to protect the public. I think the data team and some others got stonewalled. And this, I mean, just look at this list. We are 15 minutes in. I'm still going. This list is 662 pages. okay, and we have to go through, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to sort by each. Look, we see Juicy in there. I'm going to search by each one. Lowell Farms. And listen, each company is going to be very clear that just because they were subject to this product advisory and were testing with Assured, that does not mean that the products were contaminated. That's true. That's a true statement. But we now are opening a Pandora's box because this is 190,000 potentially individual sales, individual products, because obviously you could buy more product than more than one product in a sale. But 190,000 individual products across 7,600 batches. If we get some test results back and say, we can get some serious data, we need like 500 to 1,000 of these products that were subject to the advisory. We can, if we start finding like 80%, 90%, and they have to be sealed or the data won't be valid, 80, 90% are popping above 50, 100,000, God forbid, 200,000 or more, yeah, we got a serious problem. All right, that's actually a very serious public health risk. But that's why this is so important. That's why this discussion had to happen. That's why I'm so glad this has finally been released. I think the CCC, their press team and their sort of institutional posture is always like obfuscate through overwhelming and sort of boring looking bureaucratic data. But if you know what you're looking at, I mean, come on, it's so big. All right, it's the biggest thing that you can imagine. This is the largest product advisory I have ever seen in the history of the CCC. Obviously, I'm going to end this in a second here, and I'm only halfway through the file. Okay, I just want to give you some extent of the scope of how much this is. This is unlike anything, as I mentioned, I have ever seen. So my name is Grant Smith Ellis. That's how to read the file. Check column 5. I'll try to get that visualizer up as soon as possible. This is big news. I'll keep you updated with Towel News Channel. Signing off until we see each other again, Grant Smith Ellis.